platform to bring together and integrate the numerous products and services we all see in every city we visit. And I really hope that you find it useful. So whenever I talk about smart cities, I like to start by defining what the goal is for DigitalTown. And it's potentially aspirational, but our goal is generally to create happy and prosperous cities. We do this through focusing on the people, the communities, and the businesses within a city. And we encourage people to think and act locally. We encourage people to unite on community projects. And our technology is specifically designed to support co-creation, whether that be updating local information on the city portal, or developing a website or an app that benefits the community and leverages our open smart wallet API, which I'll talk about in a moment. We want our solution to be the go-to app for any given city. We want it to be the bookmark page on the browser. So smart cities is a term that we all hear and see a lot. Yet it's rare to find somebody actually defining what is and what is not a smart city. I challenge you to find somebody that refers to their city as a dumb city. It really is quite a terrible term, smart city. If you look up definitions online, even Wikipedia has a comment that says the term itself remains unclear to its specifics and therefore open to many interpretations. So I'm going to talk a little bit about different sides of smart cities today, but at DigitalTown, we very much align with the enhanced quality, performance, and interactivity of urban services, and increasing the contact between citizens and government. To go further, we're very much about the connectivity, the integrated services, and the creation of frictionless interactions between the people that live in the city and the businesses and the services that provide for that city. So when I was at the expo in Barcelona last year, I would say that over 70% of the people presenting solutions and products at the World Congress were based around the Internet of Things. And it's very hard to disagree. The technology like smart parking, smart lighting, pipeline sensors, waste management are not good examples of smart projects. They absolutely are. Anything that improves the quality of life for a resident, if it reduces the cost of public services, or if it speeds up the reaction and resolution of a problem, it's a good solution. But we believe that a true smart city is one that actually puts its people and businesses first, and one that uses technology for the good of the community. Now, I think it's an interesting world that we live in today. Prior to joining DigitalTown, I was a vice president at Expedia. I traveled a lot. I was very fortunate to travel around the world. And as you can hear from my accent, despite living in Seattle, I'm not a native Seattleite. Whenever I traveled, I was with local people. I also developed a love of walking around cities and really exploring the different places I visited. A few weeks before Christmas, I was in a small city north of Seattle called Poulsbo, a very interesting city, strong Norwegian roots, a Viking town, in fact, when you walk around it. And what I recognized in that city was the high number of prime Main Street stores that are sitting empty. This is a city that has, 2 streets, if that. It's a very small city. But when you look into this trend, you'll see that in 2017, over 6,000 stores closed in North America. And already for 2018, some huge brands are being identified as potential victims of 2018. It's actually estimated that more than 10% of US retail space, or nearly 1 billion square feet, may need to be closed or converted to other uses simply because people are no longer shopping locally and interacting with local businesses. I've read a number of reports that show last year, or claim last year, that somewhere between 40 and 50% of all online sales in North America are now through Amazon.com. These are the companies that control the search traffic. Now, how does a city compete? Well, I think all of us have an affinity with the city we grew up in, where we went to college, or where we live today. But few cities today successfully leverage this affinity. So DigitalTown have taken the new .city top-level domain, and we've built a platform that enables people to search, connect, and shop locally. I challenge you to go to your main street, wherever you are in the world, pick an independent store, and Google a store on your cell phone. There is a very good chance you'll find the store. Now try Googling any product that that store sells, and you will get Amazon or Walmart. Try Googling any hotel in your city, and you will get Booking.com, Expedia, or Priceline. With a restaurant, it's going to be Yelp or OpenTable. So if we think about an operating system for a city, and we generalize the definition of what an operating system is, it's essentially system software that manages resources and provides common services. So think about how you interact with businesses and services today. Everybody from Contractor.com to Domino's Pizza to hotel reservations to online taxi bookings to train tickets to Oyster cards or Orca cards, they all want you to sign up and create an account. You're sharing your information with many, many different companies, not all of which will have your data security as a primary concern. Not to mention the overhead you have as an individual of managing and maintaining such a high number of accounts and passwords. Each of these businesses kind of knows a little bit about you, but none of them know enough about you to be able to personalize your service and provide a connected solution to your problems. Now, sure, local companies can emulate the larger companies. They can create slick websites, they can create loyalty programs, but as the traffic is typically coming from Google, they'll always be ranked lower than the major brands. Creating a cool website is one thing, getting people to find you is very much another. Each of the interactions you have with these different businesses and services is typically based on something like an email address. It says nothing about you as a person. It doesn't convey your location. It doesn't convey your preferences. Therefore, the experience is disconnected and impersonal. So back in 2015, Rob Monster, the CEO of DigitalTown, coined the phrase Internet of People. Internet of People was partly in response to the smart city world focusing on the Internet of Things. And in order to build an Internet of People, we need to create an identity authority. We need to build a global network of verified identities for individuals. Now let's focus for a second on the term verified. I'm sure most of the people on this call have at some point received a DocuSign document to sign. I myself, I think, signed the rent of my house through DocuSign. I may have signed my employment contract, I think, through DocuSign. But all DocuSign actually knew about me was my email address and my name. At some point, we'll see some challenges, I guess, on these types of systems, because how do you prove when the signature is actually, just a generated signature on DocuSign, for example, that somebody actually signed that document? Now, I know there's technology in there around IP address and times and so on. But my point here is that we have lots of accounts around the world. There's lots of identity theft going on. There's lots of copies of our data out there. If you could create a unified platform where you had a single identity. And when a company wanted to interact with you and needed information from you, you had control over the information that was shared with them. And security questions should always be phrased, is this correct information, as opposed to tell me this information. For example, if a company wants to verify your cell phone number, they should pass the cell phone number and say, is this Mike's cell phone number? Not ask me to send a cell phone number for comparison. So by creating a central authority and creating this permanent online digital identity, we can start to create the foundation for a secure interaction with many, many different businesses and services. And we talk about reputation, we talk about location, we talk about communication, we talk about MOIP payments, which I'll go into in more detail in a moment, shared ownership, and of course, verified identity. So our smart city sites are rolled out around the world. We have around 13,000 sites right now. We're growing week by week. And the site is built on a common platform. Every user that signs up and creates an account automatically is assigned their own online identity. And we have techniques we can use that range from relationships with biometric companies to sending physical mailers to your home address, to pulling data from multiple sources of federated identity data to verify that the number matches your address, matches you as an individual, and so on. You are now a known individual, a known resident in this case of Austin. We also provide you with a permanent online address, say mike.austin.city. And a permanent online address means that you can store your profile, your social media accounts, you can have your cell phone number on there. And of course you choose what you share with other people, but it becomes your permanent online record. So as we change email addresses, we change cell phones, as we stop using LinkedIn and move to the next product, or we stop using Facebook and move to the next product, you always have this permanent record where you can centrally update this information. We also start to build out reputation based on you as an individual and how you interact with people in your community. And what I mean by that is we're very much focused on the sharing economy. So if you borrow something through technology on our platform and don't return it, then we'll identify you as somebody who people shouldn't lend things to in the future. It's very, very simple. We also have built into the platform what are called MOIP. So MOIP stands for Money Over Internet Protocol. This is the primary value proposition of Bitcoin that I'm sure everybody's heard of. Bitcoin is definitely something that people talk about from an investment point of view today, and people are speculating on it. But fundamentally, the purpose of Bitcoin was to enable people to transfer money around the world without, without specific interactions or fluctuations or central authorities controlling the value of that currency. With our solution, you can make and receive payments from your cell phone, your laptop, to friends or business with no fees. You can do this via QR codes on the app. You can do this by simply sending an email. And we support many, many different currencies. We also have an open API, which means that any company developing an app or developing a website, or any local government that wanted to adopt our single sign-on and our payment methods, can plug straight into this platform. With every resident in a city, hopefully signing up on this platform becomes a real asset to any company that wants to be able to interact with those users. Over the coming weeks, we'll be adding Bitcoin to our smart wallet as well, which is quite an incredible step. When you think about the fact that you can walk into the bakery on the high street and with your smartphone, you will be able to buy a loaf of bread using Bitcoin. And simply we will convert that to US dollars, so the baker immediately gets US dollars in his account, but you actually used your Bitcoin to make that purchase. Our technology that underpins our smart wallet is built on blockchain technology, and we can certainly go down that conversation during a Q&A if you wish. We also believe that successful movements like DigitalTown need support from the local community. And for every city site that we launch, we're actually providing residents with free tokens that represent a share in the city platform. This is the true sharing economy. Think of it as a cooperative. Local businesses can accept these tokens for goods and services. We can reward people that contribute to the content on the site, that get involved in community projects, that generally are key citizens within their community can be rewarded through these tokens. And the businesses themselves, when they accept these tokens, are actually getting information about the customer that's coming into their store or coming into their bar, and being able to reward them for their continued support of local businesses. Now, I mentioned that this is an operating system, and with over 13,000 cities live across the world, and plans to deliver solutions for every city in the USA with a population over 10,000, this is a huge project. But as the world becomes connected through the same operating system, whether you're on your laptop, your tablet, or your cell phone, you have access to local information and local services wherever you travel. You're essentially seeing the world through local eyes. And I'll talk in a moment about our app and how that facilitates that travel. We are a system integrator. We build partnerships with local businesses and local services. We connect the people of a city with the businesses and services in the city. Now, we provide the technology for a hotel to get online. We provide online storefronts to allow businesses to sell their goods and services. We provide a solution for restaurants to allow them to take table reservations or online take out food orders. We get all of their information online, and all built around a local search engine that we developed. So one of the core features of a city portal is that when you're searching on a city portal, you're not searching through Google or Bing, you're searching across the local businesses. When you search for an iPhone charger on austin.city, it's the local stores selling the iPhone chargers that will appear first. But of course, people have an expectation that they're going to get results to their search. So we do partner with organizations like Amazon and Expedia and Priceline. We'll always make sure that the consumer gets results. But gradually, as we sign up more businesses and sign up more services, we're pushing down the larger organizations and promoting the smaller businesses. With a verified identity and web and mobile platform, we can integrate any partner in the city, from the parking to the train tickets, to the local bus services, to the cycle rental systems, to community groups. We connect the app with local cab firms, not just Uber. We connect hotels and restaurants directly with visitors to the city, dramatically reducing the cost of acquisition of those customers. And by working with the city, the chambers of commerce, the local business community, and local activists, we promote the city portal and the app, and we work together to drive traffic to it. So now we have everyone integrated on a city-centric platform, and we're enabling local partnerships. Features like, how do I get to location X, become choices from local bus, local train, or local taxi. Buying a ticket can become an instant transfer of funds from one smart wallet representing the customer to another smart wallet representing the cab or representing the bus company. The data we collect from our mobile app also enables us to build in intelligent routing. We can integrate with smart parking solutions. We could even remind you to pay for the parking automatically because you parked your car in a pay car park. There are fantastic solutions out there. Many companies are, I've met at events that are doing some really clever things, but they're all going it alone. They lack the integration that a DigitalTown platform provides. If you sign up for bike share in Austin and then head over to Dallas and try and rent a bike, you have to start the process again. You have to sign up again and provide all the information. Now try going to Amsterdam and renting a bike, or Barcelona. The technology is there to make this frictionless, to make this seamless for a consumer. And you know, our goal is to be that technology. As we continue to build out our relationships, you know, we will provide many, many different services through our website and app, gradually expanding city by city. And we will continue to reward people for thinking and acting local. Now, this is Austin.city. This is our portal. I invite you all after today's presentation to take a look at Austin or San Antonio or Dallas or any of our platforms. You register, you get an account. We've talked about that. You search local, you're finding local businesses. The experience is consistent. The experience is consistent across both the website and the app. And when you travel, the app is intelligent. When you land in a city that's not your home city, the app will detect that you're in a different city. It will continue to provide you with that familiar experience that you've seen when you've used the app in your home city, but now the restaurants are restaurants near you in the city you're in. The events and tickets and tours, the local city information, the maps, the find local people, all of these features are now very much focused on where you are. One of the key things we have to recognize when competing with large organizations like Amazon and Expedia is that people have an expectation that an app or a website will behave in a certain way. We need to not just promote the fact this is local and it's good for your local community because it protects jobs and it protects, you know, the taxation that helps underpin the services you all consume as residents. We have to accept that many people just want it to be simple, want it to be easy, want it to be frictionless, and we have to continue to provide that familiar and low friction and intuitive experience. I mentioned about local payments, and this is a few screenshots from the next release of our app where you'll simply, you know, have your different wallets with different amounts in it, and you can just instantly pay a friend just by scanning a QR code or sending them an email. As I said, our app is all about convenience, local information, local businesses. And your profile says you're a vegetarian, we're not going to show you the steakhouses. We're making everything personalized. With the app, the additional value is we now know your location. We know where you are. Therefore, we can serve up data and information that's relevant to both time and location. Just a few more screenshots here showing hotels. You can search and book hotels, cafes. You can see the menu. You can even search for individual dishes on the menu. You went beyond the restaurant search, and we actually allow you to search for foie gras or whatever it is you potentially want to have for dinner. So,
right, a quick question. I assume the
vendors themselves fill in the information and populate the site.
So that's a great question. Let me explain two different scenarios. So what DigitalTown have done by partnering with different organizations around the world is we've become a federator of existing data. So for example, we have access to a large supply of local information around events and tours and activities. We have access to global hotel databases, global restaurant databases, global menus. So when we launch a platform for a particular city, and you can compare San Antonio, for example, to Austin. Austin is a platform that now has somebody administering it, which means residents of the community can co-create, can contribute news articles, can identify where information is not accurate. Local restaurants can claim their restaurant, upload their menus, and manage the content and make sure it's accurate. And we actually have administrators in every city that we can give access to the control, the content management system that allow them to to be able to manage the content. San Antonio, however, is an out-of-the-box solution. We don't give a city an empty shell. On day one, you have all the hotels, you have all the restaurants, you have all the tours and events and tickets and activities, because we're federating that data from many, many different sources. But for me, it's only a city platform only really comes into its own when somebody is representing that platform in the city and is overseeing, or the community is self-managing the content on that site. So we don't provide empty shells. That would be of no value. But the more it's adopted, the more businesses that sign up, the more hotels that sign up, the more restaurants that sign up, the more local it becomes. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. So are you actually pulling that data, or are you actually partnering with all those hotels? Do you manually populate that, or do you pull that from their website?
So hotels are a very specific solution. So with hotels, we have relationships. As I mentioned earlier, nobody wants to arrive at a site and find no data. That's of no value, and they won't come back. So we have partnerships with the major hotel providers. So we have access to every hotel you will see on Booking.com, Priceline.com, or Expedia.com. We have all of those hotels, and we can sell you a room in those hotels tonight. That's not a problem. What we also have is technology that allows us to sign up the hotel directly. And whenever we sign the hotel up directly, we remove that hotel from the feeds coming in from the other suppliers, and we promote that hotel as being a locally owned and locally managed hotel. So when you search for Austin, if we have a hotel in Austin that's directly contracted with DigitalTown, then we will represent that as being, the #1 hotel, and bring that to your attention. And the reason we do that is that, the hotel industry is quite an interesting space. Over many, many years, a handful of companies have essentially dominated the search market. And people, typically, will go on Google and search for a hotel, or will go direct to an Expedia and so on. Because of that dominance of the demand for hotels within the city going through these central channels, the small independent hotels typically pay very large fees. I was in a hotel in Australia in October last year, and I spoke to the manager, and he was paying Booking.com 32% of the booking, which is an incredible figure when you think about it. But if you're an independent hotel, you can't buy AdWords on Google. You can now promote your hotel name because that's intellectual property, but you can't afford to buy traffic for hotels in San Antonio, because even if you match the bid of the incumbent companies, you would still lose, because the Google algorithm is not just based on how much you bid for the click. It's based on your history with Google. So with hotels, we have always got content for every city, but we then work with the hotels to try and encourage them to sign up directly.
Yeah, that's really helpful. What about working across providers? So, the obvious example would be you're visiting Austin, and you're trying to plan your trip, and the app evidently knows what hotel you're going to and knows you're flying into Austin Airport. Can it look for ways to help you find transport and and get to your location? Is that in there, or do you just work your way through that?
Yeah, that's exactly one of the key things I'm researching right now. And this call is, hopefully I can make some great contacts in this call and help me find solutions for that. What I'm finding today when I research a city, and I mentioned this with the bike sharing, is there are many, many different companies in the city providing pieces of that puzzle. There are a few companies in the US that are now emerging as integrators of certainly public transportation. And our starting point is actually working with these companies, so we can provide intelligent routing that you land at the airport, you need to get your hotel. We'll be able to say, do you want to take a train? Here's when it leaves. Here you can buy your ticket. Do you want to take a local cab firm? Do you want to use Uber? That's absolutely where we're going with the app, to make that whole travel experience as seamless as possible. The challenge we have right now is, if I look at the 13,000 cities that we currently have, live, although, as I say, we don't have the promotion going on in every city right now, I'd almost certainly have to find 13,000 different integrations to make that do what I want to do. So that's the challenge that we're facing right now, that we're trying to identify organizations we can partner with that have done at least some of the groundwork of integrating some of these platforms. We then bring that technology into our platform, which makes it available through both the app and the mobile. So it's a huge challenge. I know I'm preaching to the choir on this call. I'm almost certain that integration of these different transportation technologies is a challenge.
Thanks. That's helpful.
So this actually is my final slide. And I'm bang on my 30 minutes. So I'm impressed. DigitalTown really, we're all about bringing a global, local platform. It sounds crazy, but globally local is very much what we're about. By providing identity, reputation, preferences, payments, promoting local businesses and rewarding local citizens for getting involved, we think we've created something that is unique. And by having a local app for a local city, we're bringing those mobile residents together and hopefully improving communication and enabling personalized content. We, as I said earlier, we work in different models. We have partnerships with cities where the city is promoting us. We have individuals who have said, hey, I want to be the person that owns and operates the smart city sites in my city. And we have shared ownership where the people in the city, own, thousands of people own small shares in the city platform, each of them promoting, the concept of interacting and co-creating and sharing the view that, people need to start to think a little bit more about the impact that the winner-take-all economy is having on their local community. So thank you for your patience and listening to me for the last 30 minutes. I sincerely hope that this is an interesting and useful presentation. I know it's not as super focused on transportation, but I think, we're very much tackling similar problems from different perspectives. That for me, having, these local sites that are focused on the city where, we have, verified individuals, known individuals in the city and how they interact with, the services in that city, I think is very complementary to the work I'm sure many people on the call are doing around, simplifying and promoting the transportation solutions within any city. So thank you. I'm very happy to take any questions.
So Nestor's got his hand up. Nestor, you want to talk?
Thank you very much. Great presentation, Mike. I have a couple of questions regarding DigitalTown. In your website, you have this option of developing and creating content. Can you mention a little bit about how does it work in such regards?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The second one, just so I won't stop you from explaining. How does data is managed in terms of monetizing what's being generated? Who owns it? Is DigitalTown enabled or allowed to do some usage of such data collected? And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, great questions. So the first one is talking about content creation and co-creation is a word I've used a few times in the presentation. So we're encouraging individuals within any city to create content. We refer to it as citizen journalism. We have a number of features that will be rolled out on the platform over the coming months around local news, local sport, local community projects. Take a picture of something in your city that is a problem and bring it to the attention of the local government and so on. So we're building out a lot more neighborhood-centric, if you like, at a more granular level, things that affect people on a day-to-day basis. We have the option of anybody requesting to publish articles on our site. We're actually doing some work on the UX to make it a little bit more intuitive to how people do that. But anybody can contribute a news article. Anybody can contribute content, and anybody with an account can actually comment on that and share it across social media. So you're going to see on our platform over the next few months a lot more focus on both the app and the website, a lot more focus on getting local people to write about local issues. I personally believe, actually, I mean, I can give a little bit of history on that, that we did try to partner with two different companies that work in this space. A company out of Israel that had some wonderful co-creation software, a company out of Vancouver that had some wonderful, data around, demographics and the ability to survey the population about future planning and so on. And while we liked what they had, they just couldn't scale and couldn't integrate in the way that we wanted them to. So as a business, I made the decision that we would develop our own platform, which set us back a little bit, but we're going to get it to be what we wanted to be, true citizen engagement, true local content. The data, absolutely, our terms and conditions do clearly state that we collect data, as any company does, and we can use that data to improve our site. We can use that data to analyze traffic and activity. And I come from, I mentioned a large organization, and I know the value of that data, and we will absolutely continue to invest in how we use that data as we grow the platform and we get significant traction and significant users. I mean, transportation is one piece of information, but we will know who's traveling to a city when, we'll know where they're staying, we'll know what form of transport they use, we'll know, this sounds a bit Big Brother and it will be anonymized, but we'll know where they went for dinner, we'll know if they went to a concert. So the data is incredibly valuable in understanding the activity of both the residents and tourists.
There are a couple of questions on the chat, actually both of them really about the business model and how where you're looking for low friction. So obviously you want to minimize the cost burden to this, but is it provider pay? Is it supplier pay? Is it how do you structure that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So I mentioned in my presentation that we provide restaurants with software get online. We provide stores with online storefronts. We provide hotels with the ability to onboard their content. We don't charge any of these businesses anything to be part of the solution. We do, of course, have to make our money. So we make our money through transactional revenue. So every transaction with a store through the DigitalTown platform, every hotel reservation, every ticket booked for a concert, we actually make a margin on every transaction. Some of that impacts the business, of course, but when you compare, and I'll give you actual numbers. So if you compare an online store with Amazon.com to provide the service will charge you, I think, $20 per month, and I think it's 18% of the online sale of their current fee in North America. DigitalTown take an 8% fee for anything purchased through our website, but bear in mind there are no credit card fees, so you can immediately take between 3 and 3.5% off that. So essentially, the store is paying around 5% for the traffic and for the sale through the website. If you take a hotel, I mentioned that it's not uncommon for hotels to pay between 25 and 30% to the large players. We charge 12%. Again, no credit card fee on that processing. So, you could argue it's 9%. So our model is very much one of scale and volume, and we fund our project through transactional revenue.
Got it. And of course, if you pass it through, I assume to the big services like Amazon, eventually that you just pass that on for service, or can you take a slice of that as well?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is a small fee. It depends. With Amazon, it's a very complicated structure. When they, depending on what somebody buys, there is commission paid, absolutely, and the same with Priceline and Expedia. If we look at hotel, there's still a revenue coming to us. And when we work with the city, if the city buys the platform, then the city keeps all the transactional revenue. We have an option for the city to buy the platform. We have an option for the city to take a stake in the platform, where the city would own a percentage of it and the transactional revenue would be split between DigitalTown and the city. And we have the option where individuals can buy the platform outright, and it's almost, you could almost think of it as a franchise. I'm not sure if the legal implications there, but in my head, it's almost like a franchise that we're providing, the solution, we're providing the technology, we're providing the content, but if you own the platform, then you're keeping all the transactional revenue from it. So we have different models that fit with different cities and different organizations.
Very helpful. Other questions?
So I've just seen a question pop up from Richard around Intera, a local business-based credit card. I don't know if Richard would like to give some more information on it. Sounds very interesting.
Richard, are you on mute? I can pull you off. You're off mute now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can, perfectly.
Oh, so DHOC has talked about, the wanting to start a credit card company. Says, the DHOC started Visa. And
yes.
He said that what he would like to do would be to do something like one of these, Discover card that gives you back money. But instead of giving you back money, giving it to a local charity that you've chosen, maybe give you a little bit, and he might take a little bit. But what winds up being interesting is that he's talked about tying into inventory systems of local businesses, so that even if you buy outside of your community, then Intera can tell you, oh, by the way, did you know that the shop down the street has that same product? And you could have gotten it there, and sort of directing business towards the local businesses. And it's a really interesting model about sort of supporting community. And I'm trying to remember what there's something in Portland. It might be called Supportland or something like that, but a little sort of a membership where you can if you buy from local businesses, there's some kind of kickback. And it seems like funding through something like that could be a great way to sort of monetize the resources that you're putting into this.
Thank you. That's a great piece of information. I will absolutely reach out to Dee today. I'm sure through our network we have a connection somewhere. So I appreciate that, Richard. Thank you. I think it's really interesting.
No problem.
I see another question that's come up, which is, what potential value do you see DigitalTown providing to local transit agencies? Which is a great question. And I'm going to show my naivety here in terms of not having a clear definition of the role of the transit agency. What I have touched on in the presentation is how I see DigitalTown integrating their platform with many different travel providers, from local bike sharing schemes to independent cab companies to public transport systems. And the way I see it working is that by seamlessly integrating through our open API, and I don't think I mentioned, but our wallet and our single sign-on is an open API that anybody can use free of charge. I see it as being that we can provide a choice to the consumer through the app or the website across many, many different suppliers, but to them, it just appears like one integrated solution. So when they, get off their plane in Seattle Airport and they open their phone and they need to get to their hotel, it will enable them to buy a ticket for the light rail. It will enable them to book their Uber if that's what they want to do, or enable them to book a local cab company that will, pick them up right outside the door. So, that's how I see it. But the challenges I see there and the things that I'm working on right now are trying to find companies that have done some of the aggregation for us. It's very easy when I look at a city like Seattle, where we have good relationships with the different organizations in Seattle, that we could build a Seattle-centric solution. My role is to think globally and think about how we can provide this functionality to cities all over the United States and across Europe and the world. So that is actually one of the big challenges that we are looking at today.
Yeah, that helps. We had looked at something in Portland called UB Mobile PDX, which was trying to aggregate those various transit services. And of course, as you broaden this out and you start to link it to local businesses, you're pulling in, not only the mechanism for getting there, but why you're going there, right? Tying it back to, as you say, a hotel or a restaurant or whatever it is you're trying to go to. So that's interesting. You could start to do things like notify the restaurant that you're running 10 minutes late because the transit system was late. So interesting ways in which you can do that cross-tying.
Yeah. The other thing someone just pinged on around, even toll bridges. I know that in Washington, I had a letter a few weeks ago that I had to pay, I think, a $3 toll. The cost of the postage must have been, almost the cost of the toll. And, that was as a result of me not updating my new license plate in the system. Therefore, they sent me a letter. By having these integrated systems that we're talking about, my license plate could be in my profile. I could give permission to the local, company that operates the toll to access my license plates. In which case, when I change my car, again, I update it in one place and all the systems pull the information. It's just, a smart integrated solution. So I think, likewise, if you have our app on your phone and you drive, we know where you are. The mapping technology we have is incredible right now. If you drive past a toll, like I clearly did, I actually saw the cars going off to the right and thought, oh, that looks like a toll, but kept going on the freeway. The app could have gone, hey, Mike, you drove through a toll. You need to pay this. And I could have just paid you instantly, as opposed to, all of the postal-based, interaction. And then I had to go online and, change all information and pay and so on. So there's so much we could do. Honestly, I think the way we'll end up tackling this is finding that city, finding that transport authority that really wants to work with us and build something special. We then do the work to integrate those platforms within one city. And we use that as a model of what can be achieved, but also as a call to the whole industry to say, look, guys, let's start to think about integrated solutions here. Let's start to think about bringing this together because everybody wins. The whole thing about the app and the whole thing about you traveling in it, knowing where you are. I regularly land in a city and just have to use Uber. I have no clue who else is there to use. And, it's kind of playing into the hands of this organization that, you could question, the model there. I mean, Uber is pretty much on record saying that there'll be driverless cars. There won't even be people employed to drive the cars, So I think from DigitalTown's point of view, I think we're on the lookout for that authority that wants to sit down around a table and build this, and we will absolutely invest the time and money to build it.
There's a couple more on there as well, if you want, Mike. First one is about can DigitalTown support transactions for users wishing to block identity?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we can. I mean, one of the things that, people talk about from a blockchain point of view, to go back to, Bitcoin, is the anonymity of that particular model. But yeah, we absolutely can have the ability to pay from one wallet to another wallet anonymously. That is not a bad idea. It's not something we have right now, but it's the type of thing we could turn the feature on very, very quickly. I'm making a note of that one. So well done. You've helped me improve the product today. I like that. Thank you. You have a comment here about dozens of different transit cards or apps for a dozen cities. The challenge with transit cards, and I'm familiar with at least two, the UK's Oyster card and the Seattle Orca card. Technically, they're identical, but the problem you have there is the readers within the different the different stations, and not all cell phones are equal in how they work and the technologies they support. And we're trying to build a platform that is flexible enough to be working in India or Africa or London or Seattle. The reason we chose QR codes is you can have the oldest smartphone on the market. As long as it's got a camera, you can use a QR code. So I think aspirationally, I'd love to have an app that could replace all of these different local cards. I always land in London and have to buy another card. I must have a stack of them. So I totally hear what you're saying. The challenge there is a hardware challenge and the card reading challenge as opposed to a software challenge based on my limited research in that space. There's a question about trust, and I think that's a really great question. So what I would say is DigitalTown is not a startup. It's a publicly traded company. That's the first thing. It's a company that's been around for, I think, around 12, 13 years. So we're not a fly-by-night startup. We are an SEC registered company as a result of that. So as you know, there are certain controls and regulations that we have to go through. For example, the way we look at blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies is different to three guys in a dorm room. We're looking at the SEC, we're looking at the long-term picture. When we talk about security and compliance, things like the European GDPR, we are GDPR compliant, we are PCI compliant. So, I get, the question of trust. We're not a household brand at this point, and our job is to build, the reputation of DigitalTown, and that just takes time. It's something we're working on. So there's a question about analytics, which I think is also a great question. And absolutely, I think some of the biggest value we're creating within the company is the data we're collecting, and comparing city to city, I think is fascinating. We have a huge database now, probably one of the most accurate population databases you can find. We source data from many, many different sources, trying to build a global population database, which is one of those wonderful challenges that sounds simple, but when you actually start on that journey, it turns out to be very difficult. So we have information about cities and city sizes. We're collecting data through a company called Spatial.io, which shows you, based on social media chatter, the type of districts you have within a given city. So where the hipster district is, where the music district is, where the food district is. So there's loads of great data that we're federating and bringing together. And absolutely, we will be able to make this data available for analytics and to support informed decision making. That's definitely a long-term goal. You need significant data in order to make it valuable. And right now, we only launched the Austin platform a few weeks ago. We launched Sydney back in, I think, October last year. So we're really in that first 6 months, and we don't have the volume to make that relevant at this point. There's a question around provide local health services to citizens as well through DigitalTown. I'm not sure I fully understand Bridget's question. Certainly our app does give you information about where local hospitals are, but local health services, I'm not sure if you mean access to actual information, or could you elaborate?
Brigitte, you want me to pull you off mute?
Yeah,
I could maybe take a bit of a shot at it, but you want to try?
sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I was asking about helping individuals have more than just their identity, but also their health records to some extent, so that when you're traveling, you can be seen by health services in any city.
Okay, that's a much cooler question. I totally misinterpreted your question. So this is a fascinating space right now. We've touched a couple of times today on blockchain technology, and I know Greta is on the call, and we've had some good conversations around blockchain as well. There will be a point in time where we control our own data and we control access to that data. That's not going to be something led by DigitalTown. There are some really interesting projects going on across Europe, the US, and Canada, where companies are looking at blockchain technology as a way of securely storing, without a central authority, your personal data records, and allowing you to control who sees that data and for how long they see it for. Our CEO's wife is actually a general practitioner, and this is a conversation we've had a few times. That's the direction we're going in. And it's not just about medical data. I run a blog called blockchain.city, and I blogged back in December around credit reports. if you think about how credit scoring works today, you go and lease a car, you fill this huge paper form in where you're giving lots of information that you've given many, many times before. And, you know, I mentioned earlier that security should be based on the premise of verifying information or asking yes, no questions, not sharing lots of information. So I think from a credit scoring point of view as well, the ability to hold your credit history and control who has access to it and what type of access they have is also something that's very, very fascinating. So I think you're absolutely onto something that will be fundamentally changed over the next, I would say, 3 to 5 years. And whilst I will personally be monitoring it, and if there's an opportunity to integrate, I would absolutely be interested in that. But it's definitely not something we will be leading. But if you are interested, connect with me on LinkedIn and I'll send you some articles around some work that's going on in that space.
Great, thanks.
So I just saw a question from Jonathan around campuses. Jonathan, I think that's a fantastic idea. I'd love to talk more about it. Jonathan's question is about applying the technology to self-contained university campuses. I think that's really interesting, because if you think about, you know, the local information, the journalism within the campus, the events and activities and what's going on around the city from the perspective of the student, I think that's a fabulous idea.
Well, I think we've pretty much come to the end of our time. I'm happy to link you up with John and make sure that you can follow up on that one. Really great talk. Thanks a lot, Mike. I much appreciate it. I will post the presentation, and as long as you're comfortable with it, the recording of it on the website, so as people can come to it. But this was fantastic. So thanks very much indeed.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. It's a good session. Appreciate all the questions.